Welcome to another FormationData beta test demo. Today we're going to be taking a look at the platform and which modules may be useful to property deal sources. Now we're going to split the demo into two focuses, one acquiring investors and two acquiring property. Now the first module we're going to take a look at is formation companies. And if we use a date filter down here and we're looking at the last 30 days, we could look at every single property company that's launched in the last 30 days. But we want to be a bit more specific than that. We want to filter by individual SIC code. So we're going to choose 68209. These are people who want to buy property and let them out. If we wanted to look for property traders or people looking to flip properties, we'd look at SIC code 68100. Now we want to click over on the ownership tab here, and we're looking for owners that have maybe at least £100,000 cash in their bank account. This tells us that they have an existing successful business and now they've set up a new company, an SPV, for the sole purpose of acquiring property. So we know that we've got successful business owners with money to invest, and they're telling us they actively want to buy rental properties. This brings it down to 337 properties. Now what we can do is we can start to open all of these companies in a new tab here and start to investigate what type of contact information we can get. Now, you can't beat a hand drop letter, so if you wanted to export them in a CSV, you can actually export the whole list, but we can actually make contact with a good number of these just by hunting down for some contact details. So the company's only just launched. In fact, it launched today, so this is a brand new company. We've got two directors and two PSCs. The directors are the same as the PSCs, the persons with significant control. If we click on the little LinkedIn icon here, okay, so they don't look too active. Let's go down to the next director, Bruce Ruggles, owner at Stepform Projects. Well, this carries the Stepform name. So let's have a look at his linked company, Stepform Projects. Yeah, we've got there. So we know that this is the right director. We can drop him a LinkedIn and say, congratulations on launching your new company. We'd really love to help you out with providing you a hands-off investment service where we find your rental properties for you. And because we've got his linked company here, we're going to go investigate that, and look at that. We've got a mobile number for him. So we could literally call him on the same day that he's launched, congratulate him. We know that he's got 122 grand cash in his bank account in his other company. He's now set up his SPV to buy property. So it looks like he's building cash in one company. He wants to build wealth in another. The other company's certainly doing all right. Looks like it's got a couple of £1 million current assets less current liabilities. So that's how we can do that. And we can literally just keep filtering down these, looking at contact information through either LinkedIn or looking at contact information via linked companies. Again, Hull, and that one was HU13, but it didn't look too active. We just follow the same process. We just come in, we click into their linked companies, and we scroll down and we look for additional contact details of established companies. In fact, that one didn't look that one didn't disclose cash in the bank account. Let's choose one of his other linked companies. We've got Humber Projects. So he's the sole director of that one as well. And yeah, we've got email addresses, telephone numbers, LinkedIn of the other one, so we can investigate the people on there. It really is quite straightforward just to hunt around to find those people. And you're finding property companies, they're people that have set up a company literally to say, I want to buy a property, and specifically a rental property they want to buy and rent out. Otherwise, they'd use an alternative SIC code. And they're successful business people with cash in the bank. So that's a really, really good way of finding investors using formation companies. You can also do, established companies with minimum amount of cash in their bank and put no date range in. So you can find all of the investors, every single investor from, let's say, Northampton. But what's even better than that is finding every single investor buying in Northampton, because that could be very different. We don't really care where their money comes from. We care where they're investing. So if you did have an investment deal for someone to buy, the way that we would do it, let's look at somewhere like Northampton. We can also do by search whole local authorities. We could look at ownership, where we actually have the ownership there, and we might want to buy only offer to portfolio landlords with more than 10 properties, and we want them to be buying active rental properties, private rental, and click search. There we go, 846 properties owned by portfolio landlords. But what can we do with this? We can actually click on the property itself, go into the actual owner's details, and we can make sure they can afford to buy our deal. Well, we know that they've got more than 10 properties, and now we know that they've got £1 million cash in the bank account. They've actually got 29 properties. We can scroll down and see exactly where all those properties are. So look at these, all of these are NN postcodes. So they're clearly favouring Northamptonshire to buy in. But they're in and around. So they've got Northampton, they've got Daventry, Northampton, Toaster, which is again within Northamptonshire. So we can actually analyse them and make sure that they're a good fit for the investment that we're going to propose to them. And they're actually based in Milton Keynes. So if you were searching all of the investors from Northampton, that doesn't necessarily going to mean that you're going to find investors buying in Northampton. So both are really, really useful tools. I would say the properties module more for when you found a deal and you want to find people buying in that area and have got the cash to buy it. And I would say formation companies is more finding new investors, finding investors from that area, but you can also filter to make sure they've got enough cash in their bank account. Just do your due diligence, make sure you take a look at their company page and look at where they're actually buying property so you can tailor the deals you're going to offer them. Now, the next module we're going to take a look at is formation probate. Now, this is a really, really simple search for actually finding probate properties. We just want to enter in a postcode like NN39AG, and we're going to ask it to load 50 results at the time and click search. Now, although we can load the individual probate details and you can contact the solicitors through feedback from people already acquiring property through this platform, it's actually much more effective to go and deliver a hand-delivered letter to the actual probate property itself. That has been yielding better results for actually acquiring the property than going through the individual probate solicitor. Now, it's the 27th of August today, and we've got 2 today. We've got one on the 25th, one on the 24th, 21st, 20th. And again, we can actually go into the probate record. We can actually have the solicitor's details who are dealing with it. But again, I would really recommend hand-delivered letters to these. You can export it in a CSV, chuck the addresses into ChatGPT or something and say, what's the most efficient way to drive, cycle, walk to these addresses and just go hand deliver these letters. This is a really, really good way of acquiring off-market properties. So the next module we're going to take a look at is formation courts. Now, this is really good for finding landlords about to have an empty property. So if we're looking at court cases in the last 30 days, they're 3,127, we can now filter down by the court location, and we can filter down by the case type. So if we're looking at, let's not look at mortgages, let's look at private rent repossessions. We could be looking at accelerated repossessions. These are the old Section 21s. Unfortunately, they'll be disappearing because you had to have had your claim in before a certain date, so they are winding down now. We've got PCOL, which is possession claims online. We've got standard possessions. We've got trespass repossessions, which tends to be buildings that have been left empty for a long time, or derelict buildings where there have been squatters, etc. Let's go into the accelerated repossession. And what we're doing for, we're not looking for lettings agents. We're looking for ones that suggest they'd be managing it themselves. So the actual owners of the property submitted it themselves. And when we open up the case type, the company name, we can actually look at the SIC code. So let's have a look here. So we've got a Miss Walker, that looks promising. Ascion. Let's try BC Exchange and the Cornish Property and Photography Company. Let's open up that one. We'll take a look at the SIC code. buying and selling of own real estate, letting and operating of own real estate. So this tells us that they're doing it themselves. And if they're doing it themselves, they probably should have had an ICO number. And they've only got one property. They've got £645 cash in the bank account. And this is the property down here. So again, you'll probably recognize this page. It is our standard company page. So like we showed you earlier, you just follow the same methods of LinkedIn, looking at linked companies to hunt for the contact details, or I still personally believe you can't beat a letter drop, and you can save these to CRM, export the lists, and do a letter drop as well. So why are these good? Well, we know that landlord's about to have an empty property. If they've got 100 properties and they're evicting a bad tenant, it's not really going to phase them. But if they've set it up as an SPV, as a wealth protection system, and started manage it themselves, look, it may have not worked out the way they thought. They're evicting them themselves, so they probably didn't get a lettings agent in. They like the idea of an asset, but the management has probably become tricky, or the tenant's not paying rent, or they've had a bad tenant, or they're deciding they wanted to sell. So why is that useful for property sourcers? Well, if they like the idea of having the asset, but they don't want the responsibilities of managing them, well, their options are lettings agent or rent to rent. And we've actually seen many of these that have gone to a rent to rent basis. It could be that they are worried about the Renters' Rights Act and they're just looking to sell. It could be that they've only had one or two properties, they've had problematic tenants, and they've decided, look, it's not for us. We just want to sell and rather put our money into the S&P 500 or something. But this is a very, very good way, and we have clients already acquiring properties and majority below market value through this method. So again, great for rent to rent, great for finding landlords about to have an empty property, and great for finding landlords who are about to have an empty property who have just decided they want to sell. Let's look at this other one over here. So they have two properties, no financials disclosed. They do have an ICO number, which is great. If we so they've only got two properties, but they've been in court in April, the 4th of June, the 11th of June, and now the 27th of August, which is today. So it certainly sounds like they've got either problematic tenants or it's being disputed. They certainly would be a good one to contact. Let's see how long they've been. So they've been going for around 10 years. Maybe it's time that they are looking to get empty properties and just sell up. But we won't know till we contact them. But formation courts, absolutely fantastic for rent to rent, absolutely fantastic for buying below market value properties, or maybe finding properties. We've had this a number of times where the properties have been damaged by tenants, and rather than invest more money into bringing it up to standard, it's just sold a bit below market value. So coming back to the FormationData dashboard. So the next module we're going to take a look at is formation contracts. Now, we can search by CPV codes for accommodation, etc., but I just prefer to search by keyword. We're going to look for open to bid and up and coming contracts. Now, these tend to be all the councils looking for emergency accommodation, homelessness, rough sleeping accommodation, but actually for a deal sourcer, a better one to search is people who have actually been awarded contracts. There are a lot of hoops to jump through to become the main contractor, but if you're looking for people who have actually been awarded the contract, you know that they've been awarded a decent amount of money, and you can find out who they are and what they're potentially looking for. So this is supported accommodation services. The budget the contract value was £16.5 million, and split up into 3 lots, and one of them has been awarded to Cherry Blossom Supported Living. So if we take a look at these, they've got 47 grand cash in the bank, and let's have a look at their assets. Tangible assets only £18,000, so it could well be that they are renting from landlords or other property owners to obtain those. Now they've just managed to take a decent amount of 16.5 million, so they've got budget. They do supported living, and they are winning these contracts. I mean, look at that, £16.5 million Nottinghamshire County Council contract, and one again in 23rd of July for Cherry Blossom, and that was accommodation for 16 plus pathways. but not an amount for that contract there. So they are winning contracts. We've got contact details for them. If you are a deal sourcer offering rent-to-rent or supported living opportunities, you can connect those property owners in with the supported living providers that you know have money to take on further properties. Hopping back over to the FormationData dashboard again, we're going to hop straight back into formation companies, but this time we're going to look for property companies with mortgages that look like they're heading in the wrong direction financially, and specifically pre-liquidation. So if we search an area like Northampton, and we are going to look at just property and real estate companies, it doesn't matter whether they're property traders or renting. It's more the fact that they have a mortgage and their company isn't heading in the right financial direction. So we're going to look at mortgage charges at least one, and over on compliance we're going to look at overdue accounts and probably tie that in with overdue confirmation statement. Actually, just searching overdue accounts yields pretty good results as well. So as you can see here, just with those filters, how many of these have already gone into liquidation? Just those signals from overdue accounts, overdue confirmation statement, so many have gone into liquidation. So just by starting with overdue accounts, that is the first key indicator that things may not be going in the right direction. So if we open up a couple of these now, and it's important they have at least one mortgage as well, because they will likely have a personal guarantee on that mortgage, and this now becomes damage limitation. So you know that they're probably not going to make profit on this property now, but they can sell it, maybe lose out on some of the deposits that they put down, but stop the enforcement action against their own properties. This is actually a really, really good way to buy property. Once it goes into liquidation, it's then the insolvency practitioner's responsibility to get the best price for the assets, normally by going to market, best price for the assets for the creditors. Once they're in liquidation, emailing an insolvency practitioner saying, I'm going to give you 50% below market value isn't going to work. But what we have seen working is offering 75% of market value to stop that director potentially losing their family home, and whilst it remains their decision. So let's have a look here. So they've got overdue confirmation statement, overdue company accounts. We've got the details of the company, of the director there. He's got a few other companies, so he can flick through and see whether there's been a knock-on effect with his trading companies. Again, you can look him up on LinkedIn or find his contacts through his linked companies, or go and drop him a letter. Go give a knock on the door and drop them a letter, letting them know you may have a solution for them. Let's look at this next one. Again, one property, no disclosed cash in the bank account, overdue accounts, overdue confirmation statement. Here's the property down here. Again, you can look up there exactly the same way, looking up the contact details through the linked companies, etc. But this is a really, really good way to find below market value property, but also providing a solution to that director, stopping it before his company is wound up, and then it will actually cost him a heck of a lot more once his company is wound up. He's got to pay insolvency practitioner fees, there's liquidator fees, and in most cases, the lender can actually go after their personal property before their company assets are even sold. They can actually start that winding up process of the company and start calling in the monies owed to them. So that is a really, really good way to find below market value on pre-liquidation properties as well. Now, the last module we're going to take a look at is formation plannings. Now, what we can do here is we can enter in a postcode like NN3 9AG. We can look at the last 3, 6 months, 10-mile radius, whatever we want, and click search. Now, what we're looking for is rejected planning applications for extension. There is some correlation between rejected 2-story extensions and properties being sold. Examples would be 2 Spices Road, had a 2-story extension rejected, 5.5 months later sold. 30 Calendine Court had a 2-story extension rejected, 5 months later sold. And the way we do that is we look at rejected applications and filter by keyword like extension. Now we're starting to see ones where there is a signal, there is an intent there that particularly two-story extensions, when they're refused, may be put on the market, and there is an opportunity there to contact these homeowners directly, potentially an off-market sale, especially if they're needing that additional space and can't get it at the time that they need it. So that is just another one that works nationally, where you can get that intent signal for a sale. And they are all of the modules that I would use for a property sourcing business.